Hi everyone, I'm Adam and you're watching Broken Mirror. Welcome to my podcast, and here I'm going to be sharing scary, comedic horror, or mystery, suspense, thriller, that kind of stories with you to give you the thrills, or the chills. Yep, the thrills to get you the chills. So, let's get on with the podcast. Our first story is called Doppelganger Nurse. This one is true, by the way. Our next story happened to a nurse, but involved another nurse rather than a patient. A department was assigned a new nurse that had a slightly different vibe than the rest of the new nurses. She stood out for some strange reason, and the others instinctively felt uncomfortable in her presence. One veteran nurse was particularly harsh to the new nurses. One time, she overheard the new nurse confident to another new nurse how she could see things and had strange things happening to her. The veteran nurse gave her such a hard talking to in front of the other nurse for spouting such nonsense that the new nurse ended up in tears. Forgetting about the incident, the veteran nurse walked into the other nurse's sleeping quarters a few nights later, and there, as clear as day, she saw the sleeping form of the new nurse, and a second form of the same person, sitting up and glaring at her. The veteran nurse backed away slowly and ran all the way into the nurse's station. Later, the new nurse admitted that her family frequently received stories about how she was sighted in different places that she didn't even frequent. Wow, this is really scary, honestly. So basically, there's a doppelganger spirit that was actually chasing her around or leaving her body and just walking around while she's asleep. Okay, so now that we're done with that, we now to our lengthier story. So basically, the last story in the podcast is gonna be the lengthiest one compared to all. This one's called The Vanishing Girl. I was a new nurse at our hospital. I'd only been working there a couple of months. I had brought a patient of mine up to day surgery from the ER for an endoscopy, and they called back down and asked me to bring her family up because she only spoke Italian and not enough English, and they needed someone to consent for the procedure. After dropping them off, I walked past the waiting room to head back down the hall to the elevators. I took the back way to get to the ER, and the hallways are all deserted. It used to be the pediatric wing of the hospital, but that is all shut down for years, and the rooms are just empty and full of broken equipment and beds and crap like that. As I reached the old nurse's station at the T-junction between the pediatric hallway and the hallway that goes to the elevators, I saw a little girl standing across from the nurse's station, further down the hall. She had big ponytails, was wearing a brown dress, white shoes, holding a teddy bear. I thought perhaps she was a family member who had walked away from the day surgery waiting room. I was concerned that she would go into one of the rooms and get hurt or lost, so I said, "Hey little girl, what are you doing? You don't need to be over there, you're gonna get hurt." And I walked around the nursing station to go grab her hand and bring her back. I shit you not. She vanished as I got about 15 feet away from her. Every hair on my body stood up straight, and I turned and ran like a bat out of hell down to the elevator. I pounded that button for what seemed like an eternity until the elevator got to the floor. As I got back to the ER, I walked up to the nurse's desk, white as a sheet, and one of the older nurses looked at me and said, "What the hell? What's wrong with you?" I remember babbling like an idiot as I tried to tell them what had happened. After listening to me for a moment or two, the nurse said, "Oh, you saw the little girl ghost. She's been around here for years." And I remember saying, "Well, thanks for telling me about it before this." Apparently, the ghost has even been seen down in the ER, ducking in and out of the patient rooms and peeking around curtains. My wife worked upon the seventh floor, and she said that on one time on nights, a whole row of patient rooms started yelling about a little girl that was running around in the rooms. I guess she gets around. And that's all for our 2 stories, guys. I know it's 5 minutes only, but it's good enough if you don't have you don't have enough time to listen to really big podcasts. So hopefully next week on Sunday we have better stories. Like really good ones, longer ones with better stories. And by the way, guys, it's gonna be really cool if actually you email me a story that you're dying to share. It could be anything, as I told you, comedic, horror. Just if you like it, yeah, just email it to me at adamkhan_2006 at hotmail.com. The spelling would be ADAMKHAN_2006 at the rate of hotmail.com. That's right, guys. I'll see you next week. And thank you so much for following or subscribing and liking this video. Podcast. So I'll see you next time. Bye.